Kaelyn, do you have another incredible anime or another
I
live
do,
action?
yes.
Yes.
Second one's another incredible anime, and then I have a third one that's live action to talk about when we loop back around. But
Okay.
the second anime that I wanted to talk about is a recent one called The Promised Neverland. So this one is another one of those. It starts off, you don't know quite where you're getting yourself into, but it reveals what it is a little bit faster than Madoka does. In the first episode, you find out that these adorable children who all live together in this like idyllic paradise and have numbers tattooed on their necks for some reason, um, are basically being raised as cattle to feed demons that live outside this idyllic paradise that they live in. They're literally a
Wow.
food supply. It is very, very dark. They find out about this because there's kind of these three main kids who are all 11 years old. They honestly look and act younger than that, in my opinion. Like, I honestly forgot they were 11 until I started rewatching it today. I rewatched the first episode. I was just like, oh man, they're even older than I thought they were. Um, God, they
It
act like
sounds like Never Let Me Go, only worse.
really, yeah. So they're just kind of exploring in the woods. They get to the gate that leads to the outside world, and they're just like, well, remember, mother said not to come over here, it's dangerous. And they're like, well, what's out there? It could be even more dangerous. What are they protecting us from? It's very, on the nose, and okay, something's up here, right? And
Right.
uh they kind of go about their day. They're playing and stuff. They take their tests because it's like they're learning. They're basically homeschooled. They have these like electronic like tablets where they take exams. And then one of their younger siblings, they all call each other their siblings. They think of themselves as one big family. A
Okay.
6-year-old girl is supposed to be adopted. So she goes with mother to the gate, and the three children who were at the gate earlier realize, oh, she left behind her stuffed rabbit that she always carries along. And so a couple of them, Emma and Norman, take the rabbit to the gate to go get it to the little girl, Connie, to make sure that, she doesn't go off without her beloved stuffed rabbit. I
Right.
have a stuffed rabbit I carried everywhere when I was 6. It's a thing. So they go. The gate is still open. They go through and they find Connie's body, just kind of hanging
Mm.
there. And that's how the show starts. That is
Mm.
episode 1.
All right. Hit the
So
ground running.
hit the ground running. They now know, okay, so this is bad, right? We're gonna escape, right? We're gonna figure this out, right? And so the rest of the first season is basically the kids trying to outsmart mother, who is in fact a human who survived this process, because they need humans to help keep up the facade that these children are being raised until their brains are the most delicious. Yikes.
Mm.
It turns out age 6 is about when they give up. They're like, you're not smart enough. You're just going to go become food now. So when they turn 6, they get
Oh, wow.
adopted. The smarter kids make it to age 12. And then when they turn 12, they get adopted.
Mm.
And so these kids who are all 11, their birthdays are coming up. They're like, oh God, we got to get out of here. This is bad. But the adults that you see in this, like adult humans, like mother, and then another adult character who comes into the show later to help mother out, are basically tapped as being especially smart and charismatic and leaders among the kids. So they end up getting chosen to be mothers on
Mm.
these farms. So of course, this isn't the only farm. There's only like a couple dozen kids there. There are others out there somewhere. And so Emma, one of our 3 main characters, has apparently been tapped to become one of those as an adult. Of course, she's just like, hell no, I'm not going to do
Right.
that. And she and Norman and the other boy with them, Ray, formulate a plan to get as many of the kids out as possible. Mother ends up being onto their stuff. It turns out that Ray is like kind of a double agent, but he kind of triple agents his way back to helping them again. It's complicated. And yeah, and they formulate this whole escape plan. And what ultimately happens is they end up deciding there's like this whole big fight of like, okay, do we just go it ourselves and just get the oldest kids out who are going to be able to run and like escape the demons out there, or do we do like, nobody gets left behind, we're taking our whole family, nobody deserves to be eaten by demons. And
Well, not nobody. No, I'm kidding.
these are 11-year-old kids,
I know, I'm kidding.
who actually like all the kids around them because they don't bully each other for some reason.
Oh, that's good.
Unlike in real life. When I was 11, I would have been like, some of you deserve to be eaten by demons, but
Mm-hmm.
What they end up settling on is, okay, we'll get the oldest kids out, and then the youngest kids can stay behind. The 4-year-olds can stay for like 2 more years. And then the older kids will come back and get them out too when they're a little bit older to make sure that they don't get eaten. And it becomes this like intense chess match between these children and a whole entire grown adult trying to wrangle them. And it's just absolutely fascinating. Like the intelligence of the kids, the way that they figure out how to navigate this world where every single disadvantage they have, and work together and eventually escape. So that's just season 1. There is a second season. I have not watched it yet. I've heard it's not as good. It's after they escape and they're just kind of out trying to survive in the world, but I'm planning on watching it soon. I unfortunately didn't have time to get through the whole season before recording for this, but
that's cool.
I can definitely recommend the first season. It is absolutely excellent.
So how do we see this? Funimation and anywhere else that you know of?
Again, I'm watching it on Funimation, because that's the streaming service that I use for anime for the most part.
Okay, cool.
Could you say the name of it again?
This is The Promised Neverland.
That one I've heard of. Again, I've heard,
yeah.
but didn't know what it was about. So
yeah, it's really, really good. And again, very, a lot of it is psychological. A lot of it is just kind of, that like dread feeling of, oh, we really have bad odds here, let's try not to get killed, is present throughout the show. And there's a lot of close calls where they almost get caught, and of course at some point they have to get caught, otherwise there's no climax, right? And ultimately, like, Mother ends up breaking Emma's legs so that she can't run, and it's just like, good God. Just crazy stuff like that. But just seeing these kids outsmart the adult who is ultimately doing something that they feel is not good. She has her reasons for rolling with it that you find out eventually. And then, trying to survive in this world of these big, giant, evil demons. And just the ingenuity of these children is just really, really compelling as you go through it. They're a lot smarter than a lot of like horror TV and horror film victims. Like, they're really, really quite bright. And that's why it makes for such an entertaining show.
Less frustrating to watch.
Yeah, way less frustrating to watch. I binged the entire first season of this one night. I basically was like, I'm gonna watch an episode or 2 before bed and see if I like it, and if I do, I'll finish it tomorrow. No, I stayed up all night watching
how many
entire
episodes?
Season. I was just like, I can't stop, cannot stop watching this.
How many episodes? How many episodes altogether?
Oh,
goodness. Season 1.
Let me Google it real quick because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, you mentioned that feeling of dread. That's one of my favorite things in a horror film, and so few films really have it that affect me. But when it does, man, it really messes with my mind.
I was actually just at a thing last night where they were bringing up Octavia E. Butler, and like when I read Wild Seed, that book had like the greatest feeling of dread I have ever experienced.
I haven't read Wild Seed yet. I love Octavia Butler, but I haven't read all of her books.
She has some cool characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like a book. It was relentless. I wanted to keep reading, but I wanted it to be over because it was just so tense.
Yeah, I get that. So quick Google, it looks like 12 episodes per season. So it's very, doable. It's not going to be one of those where you're just like, okay, I'm 250 episodes of filler into this and lost the plot, getting bored.
Dark Shadows.
It does not have that problem. Yeah, Dark Shadows.
That's very cool. It's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a good one. I highly recommend it.
When was it made?
Oh, let's see. I know the second season came out recently. Okay, season 1 came out in 2019, and season 2, I think, came out in 2021.
Okay, so it's fairly recent.
It is fairly recent, yeah. All of the ones I'm talking about today are fairly recent. Madoka is the oldest, which was, in 2011, so they're all pretty recent ones this time.
It's cool. We've got a range of years here.
Yeah, I'm really digging it. That's one of the reasons I decided to focus on some more recent ones, because I knew some of the ones you guys were planning on talking about were more like in the 60s and 70s, and I was like, what's some recent shows that I can talk about too? And I thought about like some 90s stuff that I watched when I was a kid and stuff, but yeah, I just ended up settling on these.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like learning about this more modern stuff.
I had a few recent millennial show, 2 or 3 that I wanted to talk about potentially. But I kind of went in a different direction. But
I'm kind of the opposite, where like I watch a lot of more current stuff just because I do teach college kids, and that's not to say that like I don't want to teach them classic older stuff too, but I kind of tend to keep my ear to the ground on more current stuff so that I can give them like relatable things and some of the classics. So I thought it would be kind of a good range.
Yeah, I try to keep up with everything. I guess I'm just
it's hard, man. And there's so much coming out now, like way more than ever. There's so many companies, so many streaming services, so many indie people doing stuff, and it's great because there's so much good content out there, but it's also impossible to keep up on all the stuff that you would enjoy that comes out in any given year anymore.
I try to at least I'll try to at least like have a general handle on what like key works are out there in a given genre or medium. That doesn't mean I've ever experienced them. Maybe I never will. But like you mentioned these 2, I've heard the names in reading about anime, but that's it. So when I was young, people are like, I had a friend who was like, "You're a dilettante. You know about a lot of things, but you don't really know a lot of things." And they were right. And then once I went and had lived and experienced things, then I became like, you know what? I'm going to make it my mission to fill in all these gaps. And then 35 years later, I'm still doing it every single day. And
that's kind of the boat that I'm in right now. I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, I've heard of that movie or show, but I haven't actually watched it. I should probably.
It's exciting to see something and have it be validated. The next one I'm going to talk about, which is not next, Francis is going to go next. The next one I'm going to talk about is an example that I finally saw, and I was like, fuck, this is incredible. But anyway, go ahead, Francis.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about The New House from Ghost Story, Circle of Fear. That was, I think this aired on March the 17th, 1972, and it was produced by William Castle and Richard Madison. So these are like big names.
Can you tell us about that show? I'm not familiar with that show you just cited.
Oh, Ghost Story?
Yeah, I don't think I've heard. I don't know. No, I don't think I know it.
Yeah, that was okay. The series started as Ghost Story, I think, for a few episodes from 1972 through the beginning of 1973. And then at the beginning of 73, then it became Circle of Fear. And I guess it was such a huge flop that they dropped it after that one season. That was it. I mean, that's all it ran for. And I barely remember any of the ones in Circle of Fear. They were kind of like, I don't know, science fiction and supernatural sort of mixed together. Not really like the most effective, but then again, I probably have to rewatch all of them. But my favorite one was actually The New House. I mean, it's probably in some ways the most standard ghost story. It was based on a short story by an English writer named Elizabeth Walter, which was like written in 1965 and called The New House. I haven't read that. I'm guessing because she's English that it was probably set in England. But here, what happens is, you've got this nice young couple. Oh, by the way, actually, I should start. It's also introduced like, the Boris Karloff thriller by Sebastian Cabot. Do any of you know who he is?
Family Affair. Yeah. He was the butler. Yeah. That's all I know.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And he's doing this. I mean, he's filming this at the Hotel del Coronado, one of the Shining hotels, or one of the places that I guess Stephen King stayed at. So anyway, I mean,
Justin would love this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, he's introducing.
Frank Baum designed the chandeliers at the Hotel del Coronado that look like
really?
crowns.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Everything ties together.
Yep, everything comes together. And so anyway, he's got this new young couple. They are moving to their new house. It's a newly constructed house on Pleasant Hill. And of course, things start happening. I think it's like the moment that action starts. She's in bed. The wife is in bed. Her name is Eileen. It's played by Barbara Parkins. And she tells her husband, John Travis, who's played by, I think, David Burney. I don't know if he was a big name at that time, but anyway, though.
Meredith Baxter Burney's husband.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I did read that. Yeah, that's right.
She got more famous than him, though.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think most people know Sebastian Cabot for playing Bagheera in The Jungle Book, the Disney film.
Oh, okay. I forgot that completely.
Okay, and that was before 1972.
Yeah.
Okay.
67.
Oh, okay. So like a few years earlier. So anyway, she says she's hearing some footsteps. What's going on, and you can kind of guess that this is like, the nth time it's happened, because he's like, oh, what is this thing? Because no, this is really important. I'm hearing footsteps. So he goes downstairs and checks. There's nothing there, and in the meantime, she calls the police. And they come and they don't find anyone at all. So it's like, that's it. And then the next day, you hear her talking to their housekeeper. This is a sort of like, I guess, an upper middle class, large upper middle class house. And she's the housekeeper mentions that she doesn't look like she's been sleeping well at all. And she says, yeah, she's been hearing all these, like, strange noises and stuff. And then they get into that, the history of the house. Like, it was built on Pleasant Hill, and that she tells that it used to be a cemetery. And so she freaks out a little. So she decides to go into town and find out from the library, the history of this place. And the librarian doesn't know. And so she's basically steers her to the head librarian. And he tells her, he spills the beans and says, well, this wasn't Pleasant. No, it was Pleasant Hill, but it was actually originally called Gibbet Hill in the 18th century. And that it was, I think it was like March. She said it was like, oh, I forgot the date, but it was 1779. And basically what had happened was that used to be, the gibbets were like, the site of the gallows. So basically her house was built on the site of the gallows. And it was, and it was closed in 1779 because there was a woman named Thomasina Barrows who was I guess, hanged there. They said she had an unfortunate life. She was orphaned at the age of 7, and then she married someone, and he was fighting the Revolutionary War, and he died. And then she had a baby that was, I think, died in stillbirth or something like that. And then she was apprehended for stealing bread and hanged for. And by the way, stuff like that really did happen in the 18th century. You got, you get hanged for the slightest crimes against property. So.
Right.
That's part of it. Anyway, so she's totally unnerved by this, and she gets home, and her husband, she tells her husband all about the story and everything. And so she goes to the kitchen, and she's trying to fix some brandy and whatnot, and she hears like this crowd noise, and she's like, "What on earth is that?" And we, of course, by now we know that this is probably the crowds, the crowds around the execution. So she turns the radio on, and then there's a bit of silence again, and then she hears the crowd, and then she hears Thomasina Barrows being executed, and then laughing. By the way, what I've forgotten to mention is that, like, one of the times when she's down, I think on a previous night when she's with her husband, she hears laughter, and it seems like it's coming from this new statue that she's bought in an antique shop. So anyway, it's kind of creepy. So after this, God, if I can remember this straight. She goes into the kitchen. She goes into the bathroom, and she looks in the mirror, and then she sees that whole execution scene being played. I remember this really creeped me out when I was little.
I bet.
That's because she's being hanged, and then she feels herself being hanged too, and then she falls, and she goes to the hospital, and she delivers a new baby, and her husband's saying, oh, we're going to make a new start and everything. And then she thinks, oh, all this stuff it's just really being caused by my pregnancy. And so the next day, she's got this big case, and it's, raining and storming and everything. She got the housekeeper over, and she's telling her housekeeper, please stay with me the entire time. She's frightened and everything. And then she gets a call from her husband saying that he's going to be late because of the storm and she has to take a detour, whatnot. So anyway, when they're there, the power goes out as well, too. And the ghost shows up downstairs. We don't really realize it's a ghost at first thing. And also, I think it depends too. If you're watching this on black and white, you may not notice as much. But if you see it on color, there's a really great video of it actually on YouTube. There's like several, but this is like really fantastic. You can actually see that she's wearing a red dress, so it's not, it's not Eileen. And so the ghost tells the housekeeper, you can go now. And she doesn't realize, the housekeeper does not realize that this is the ghost or anything. She just thinks, she thinks it's Eileen telling her that. So at that point, she leaves. Eileen hears her leaving and she's like, no, you can't go yet. And then when she's going down, she sees the ghost standing there. And then the ghost comes up and asks for the baby. And she's screaming and everything. And, it looks like she's taking the baby. Then after a while, there's like this, I guess the ghost disappears and we don't hear anything for a while. And then the baby starts to laugh like the ghost. And it ends like that. Then we hear that Eileen has been, she's turned into a completely different woman. She's much quieter and everything. And meanwhile, this baby has this very strange laugh. And I thought it was interesting, this whole episode, because it was made in 1972. In some ways, it kind of reminded me of, what's the one by, Rosemary's Baby, because, there is a pregnancy. Although the husband here is a little more sympathetic, Wow. So it's a little different.
Thank goodness.
But,
I would hope so.
And I think what's really fascinating is that it's building up on all those tropes that I talked about in the last, I think, 2 weeks ago or so. Was it 2 weeks ago, or was it just a week ago?
It was a week ago.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it was weird. It's interesting because you have this whole thing of the man, the woman going crazy or insane, probably because she's bored, silly at home, and and they're asking, her husband doesn't believe anything that she's saying at all. And there's one part where they're
don't be afraid of the dark.
Yeah, kind of like that. And he's telling her about, divorces. And then you think, well, yeah, that's right. This is when all these divorces were starting to sort of take off. And you have this sort of conflict between them because he really does not believe her at all. And he's, at one point he calls out the doctor and said, is she going crazy? I hope, does she need to get treatment or anything? And he gives her a sleeping pill. And it's like all these things that Betty Friedan talked about, like how women are always seen as being insane and whatnot. And her husband never believes it. And then you have that other, that side story of the ghost. And you think about how back then they also did talk about how, women were vulnerable, especially if they didn't have husbands. And I guess since she was poor and her husband had died in the war. And then you think about, the whole idea of the Revolutionary Wars is sort of like reflecting back on Vietnam that was going on at the time. So, it's sort of like the plight of poor women. And so, I wouldn't say that it's straight social commentary, but it really does pick up a lot of the things that, were going on in the 1970s. But I love the suspense. There's so much. It may seem kind of cheesy to us, I think, watching it today, but they're really, she's really great at showing fear. And by the way, I just want to say, she looks a bit like Vivian Lee, if you've ever watched it.
Wow.
Cool.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that. I've never seen that show at all.
You've got to. As I said, there's a really great version of it on YouTube. It's I have never seen it in such detail either.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm really intrigued.
That Spectre print that I found on YouTube, it had only been posted like within the last few months or weeks even, and it was really incredible. So, what you got for us, Mr. Bill?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to leave after this one. I decided to switch things around. I want to do my third one. I'd rather talk about, even though I don't like it. Okay. So here's the stage. It's 1978. I'll tell you how old I am. I was 18 years old in 1978. So do the math.
Okay.
And as an 18-year-old, you're starting to, I'm a grown ass man, you know. I like my own stuff. Your parents' stuff isn't cool anymore. Your dad listens to. He's got the Beatles and the Stones and Santana and everything, which of course are great. But I'm blazing my own path, so I kind of got into Alice Cooper because that really will piss off.
Here for it.
And
that was
actually,
good.
he had really cool stuff too. And of course, as night follows day, if you get into Alice Cooper, the next stage in your let's annoy my folks is to become a fan of Kiss. Now, that's a little harder to defend, although I will say Destroyer was a good album. It was actually, I think, produced by the guy who produced Alice Cooper. So it's actually it's not a bad album. I'll die on that hill. Yeah.
Pink Floyd,
and look, also, so they had also made a Marvel comic book with Kiss, and I was really into Marvel comics.
Steve Gerber.
And Steve Gerber had good art. They fought Dr. Doom. And then I hear they're going to make a movie, and it's going to be directed by the guy who did The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, one of my favorites. So there's no way this could be bad. So this was going to be my chance to show my dad just how cool Kiss could really be. Because he just heard from his friends and everything how bad it was. And like, Dad, it doesn't stand for kids in Satan's service. They're not that cool. And, we're going to watch this. So, we get the Jiffy Pop popcorn and we sit around to watch Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. And there is probably no greater humiliation in my life than the experience of watching this film with my family, since my stated goal was to show how cool they were. This misbegotten, incompetent, lots of things are bad. Lots of things are bad. But this is bad on a level that flips right around and becomes great. But then it keeps right on going and gets bad again. It's actually amazing. And I knew I was in trouble from the first moment when the credits went. And they're showing the Kiss, these cool guys who dress up in makeup and everything. And they are hardcore, whatever the hell they are. And they're like, superimposed with terrible special effects over an amusement park. And we've got Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, and they're sitting in a bumper car and it's like flying through space. And I'm like, what the actual hell is going on here?
Hey, Ace is the space child, man.
Peter Criss is like pretending to play drums, but he's hitting one of those like a Ferris wheel, and
kind of like a real show of theirs.
What is happening here? And then the movie starts, and I think it was written by the folks who did Sid and Marty Krofft. I think those were the ones who actually made this.
I thought it was Hanna-Barbera, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you're right. It was Hanna-Barbera. That's not really a big improvement. So it's like, hey, I'm writing an episode of Yogi Bear. Come here, we need you to write something with Kiss. Okie dokie. And so there's an amusement park. I figured that out early. And there's a guy there, a mad scientist, who has a lair in the bottom of the amusement park, as one does. And he makes the Chuck E. Cheese, the animatronics and everything. But they fire him because his shit's pretty bad. And he swears revenge. It's played by Anthony Zerbe, who's really good at swearing revenge. And then Kiss shows up. Oh my God. Okay. So these guys are such bad actors, they can't play themselves.
It's like Rock and Roll High School.
And I realized, okay, not everyone can play themselves. Muhammad Ali tried to play himself and he was terrible. And I still don't understand that, because he was so good at playing Muhammad Ali every other time of the day, but put him in front of a camera and he couldn't do it.
The Jackie Robinson story.
Yeah, 50 Cent was not a particularly good 50 Cent. I think he was miscast. Okay, so sometimes it doesn't work, but these guys are not playing King Lear. They're playing Kiss. They literally had to just play themselves, being these dopey characters. They couldn't do it. This production was so troubled. Gordon Hessler, who I love The Golden Voyage of Sinbad and almost nothing else he's ever done. I don't understand the guy. But this must have been a nightmare. The writers, and there were writers, went to each one of these guys and interviewed them for a while and to find their characters. And I guess Ace Frehley must have been coked out of his mind. Don't sue me, Ace. You know it's true. And he just, when they're asking him questions, he just went caw, caw, like a bird. I guess he thought it was funny. So they were like, okay, I guess that's what this guy does.
Somebody did.
So they wrote him in the script as like a silent guy who just makes bird sounds. They're like, he's like a playful Harpo Marx character. And then he read this and like, that's not me at all. It's like, well, that's what happens when you get a chance to talk to the writers and you just make bird sounds, you flippin' idiot. Oh my God. Everything about this is bad. The only one who comes out with any dignity at all is Gene Simmons. because they make his voice echoey. He growls a lot, and that's fine because he was the Kiss demon. He was the only one. I dressed up as Gene Simmons for Halloween just to tell you how far I had gone into this abyss of stupidity. Yeah. By the way, I used acrylic paints because at the time I was not the makeup maven that people think I am now. I've done some really stupid shit. Luckily, I've done it to myself more than innocent people. So yeah, that took a long time coming out. That was get that loofah sponge. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, so Kiss shows up, and they are the Kiss from the Marvel comics, but they don't have Dr. Doom or Steve Gerber or whoever did the art, which was pretty good. Oh, by the way, the comic book was printed in actual Kiss blood. They took blood out and they poured it into the red ink. I'm calling horseshit on that. That violates so many laws. I can't even begin, but it was still pretty cool. And I told my dad that, and he was not impressed. As I realize now, well, he should not be. So anyway, Kiss shows up and they get kidnapped by, Mr. Chuck E. Cheese. And his whole thing is he's going to have the fake Kiss. These guys dressed up as, these robots who are Kiss, and they're going to play and they're going to rile up
Five
the kids.
Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. And they're going to get the kids all riled up, and then they're going to riot, and vengeance will be his.
I was going to say, someone please find out if this was an influence on Scott Cawthon for Five Nights at Freddy's.
The Banana Splits movie.
Oh God.
Yeah, Kiss shows up.
I was thinking Mechagodzilla, but Mecha King Kong.
Don't eat that even in the same sentence with these guys. At one point, amusingly, Ace Frehley, looking for coke, I'm guessing. Don't sue me, Ace. He left the set, just walked off the set, and they're like, "What do we do now?" So they got his stuntman, who is 100% clearly African American, as opposed to Ace, who is not, and might have been a little hung up on that. But there he is acting at being Ace and everything. And then later on, Ace, was not happy. So yeah, whatever, dude. Don't walk off the set. I mean, Ace Frehley, he did everything wrong if you want to be in a movie. And I'm watching this, and my head is I'm just sinking deeper and deeper into the chair, and it's like I look back on it now, and it's like at the time I thought, oh man, these guys sold out. And now I realize, no.
I think they were always sold out.
No.
Yeah.
See, listen,
I had an accompanist
when I was singing
out. And she was like, I heard an interview with Gene Simmons, and he was just awful. He said it was never about the music; it was all about getting laid.
No, I wasn't.
And he told the interviewer that if you were younger, I'd be fucking you and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's a little over the top, but the part about it was never about the music. That's fine. Listen, I respect sellouts. That's how it works. Listen, okay, it's one thing if you're like, I don't know, name someone, an artist we respect, if they're suddenly doing
Robert
ads.
Fripp.
Okay, if Robert Fripp is doing ads for, feminine hygiene products or, beer, I feel bad, because it's like, geez, is this what it's come to? But if it's Kiss, no, guys, cash in. Listen, if you're Kiss,
can't sell
you gotta
out
be
if
thinking,
you've always been on that path.
Yeah, and you gotta be thinking this is not going to last 20 years. Now, 20 years later, yeah, it did. They had to be thinking we're going to just ride this gravy train for however long before people get tired of us, and that day never came. Amazingly enough, but that would be fine. No, this is worse. These guys were like superstars. Everyone, all of us were trying to piss off our parents. We love these guys. They were the top line. They were what everyone else wanted to be, but they wanted to be movie stars. And it's just so bizarre because I'm sure movie stars would, when they put their heads on their pillows, like, I wish I were Kiss. Everybody wants to be something else, and those other people want to be them. It's the strangest thing. They didn't sell out.
True.
Someone dangled this ticket in front of them. Is like, we can make a movie. And they were like, yay, a movie, not stopping to think, what kind of movie? What do we, what exactly is the premise here? And they just went along for the ride and just were led along like sheep to the slaughter. Should have ended their careers overnight. But it didn't. It later led to Peter and Ace quitting the band, because I guess they got tired of making bucket loads of money, and they went off to do whatever the hell it is they've done since. I see.
Ace is a decent musician, though.
He was a good guitar player. And
he was the only one who could actually play fairly well. I mean, he wasn't like Richie Blackmore, but I mean, he was pretty good.
He shows up at conventions and just gets a room. He's not actually part of the convention, and people go up into the room with guitars and he'll sign the guitar for a bucket load of money. So, he's doing.
He plays clubs now. I saw footage of him this year. He doesn't seem to have any ego whatsoever now, but he doesn't really, it doesn't matter. He's rich. Who cares? He just likes to play music. And I think that's refreshing for a member of KISS.
Yeah. These guys, they actually released 4 solo albums with, the cover, each one. And Idiots went out and bought all 4 of them. And the only one worth a flip was Ace Frehley's. It had New York Groove, which was halfway good. So there you go. I mean, there's the thing. Back in the day, there were only 3 channels, maybe 4 or 5 of the ones that showed good horror movies and stuff, but only 3 main channels. So there was a pretty good, at least a 33% chance whatever you were watching is what everyone else on Earth was watching. When you went to school on Monday, everyone knew what to talk about because we all watched the same stuff. And we just hung our heads in shame because we were so looking forward to Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Just try to watch it. Get to the 30-minute mark when Kiss finally shows up, and you will see what I think is maybe the most incompetent special effects that have ever been committed to film. I know that's a bold statement.
That is a very bold statement.
Please watch it. And
this sounds so bad. I have to see it.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. I have made it so much better. I made it sound so much better than what it is you're going to see.
Well,
this sounds like one of those.
I did see a video where someone was making fun of it. They only showed a few minutes of it.
Wait, hold on, Scott. What were you saying, Kaelyn?
I was just saying, this sounds like one of those get ridiculously drunk on a Friday night, expect it to be awful, expect it to far exceed your expectations on how bad it's going to be. Watch it with someone else who has a good sense of humor, and MST3K the shit out of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure alcohol is
I don't think it's good enough for that. I don't think
alcohol is good enough for that.
No, it's not.
Some new drug from the rainforest. Yeah, what's something?
Yeah, we do. Bill, if it'll make you feel better,
of your choice.
I saw it first run too. And I was a lot younger, and I didn't get Kiss at all, but my friends did, and they were like Kiss, man, and I was like, okay, I wasn't into rock music until like 1980, and but I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, I like the costumes. I like the fact that Marvel did a comic, and I actually knew Steve Gerber was in elementary school, and I was like, so I watched it. I mean, I was like thinking, I'll just see it as a superhero. I don't care about their music at all. And it's one of those things that I remember it fairly clearly. I've never seen it since. And it was so bad, but it's almost so bad it was just like, people say the opposite of love sometimes is apathy. So
it is.
Like that movie, everyone who made it and the feeling it provoked in me was just total apathy. Like I didn't hate it, and I definitely didn't like it, but I was just like, "What? Why?"
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Now but for you, I'm sure it was hard.
Well, but there is a happy ending. There is a happy ending because after it was over, I'm like, I have got to up my music game, and then I, got into new wave and punk and discovered the Ramones, who they should have had a movie made, and by God, they did.
Yes.
Rock and Roll High School, which is great, and just like fun. Kiss, the Ramones, as much as I love them, the Ramones could not play themselves either. They're terrible in the movie. That's all right. They didn't.
Pizza time. Let's dig in.
But I will say this:
Paul Bartel and PJ Souls, they were able to carry the film. They didn't make.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. But I think you'd probably agree that Vincent Furnier has become really great over the decades of playing Alice Cooper.
Who's Vincent Furnier?
That's the birth name of Alice Cooper.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's great. He's done a great job.
Because remember, it was originally a band.
Yeah.
That was formed the band was formed in 1965. I don't know if you know. I didn't know that until the last couple of years. But I mean, that original band, I think they're one of the greatest rock bands.
Oh, they're
ever.
great. But listen, dudes,
unbelievable.
I really got to go, but word of advice to people out there. If you're in a band and the band is the name, like it sounds like a human name, the singer of that band will become that person. It's just here's
okay.
Blondie's the name of a band. Yeah, Blondie's Debbie Harry. Go away. The bass player. You could take a hike, and we're gonna still
right.
I've got a story. I've got a very, very quick story. When one of my friends from high school worked in fast food, like at a drive-through window, they had one customer come through who was just I don't remember how the hell this came up in their conversation, because these are short conversations at a drive-through window, right? But somebody was just like, hey, like, my mom knows Leonard Skinner, and we were just like, what, why? Like, people just will name drop like bands that sound like people's names, and just
Jethro Tull.
I was gonna say, I got Jethro Tull in the back seat. He's playing the flute.
Yes, Jethro
He's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
The individual.
Well, listen, guys, love you all. Right, man. I gotta run off. I gotta get ready for school.
Thanks
tomorrow.
for the laughs, Bill. That was good. I'm gonna
Which
have to
one's
watch
pink?
that.
I apologize for everyone who goes to see that movie on my non-recommendation.
Thank you. I will probably come and yell at you after I watch it.
I'll take it like a man, because I'll deserve every minute of it.
You got to watch the episode so you can see what I'm talking about.
Got to listen to her all. Yeah, I love listening to you guys.
Take
care,
man.
everyone.
All right, have a good one.
Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bill.